So this is really just more of a, just moving the tissue. And in this area, the same as in the calf muscle, the hamstring, the shoulder blade area, if I feel any area that feels like a knot or tissue, I am going to do the same and hold some compression on that either taut band or on the trigger point. And then treat it the same way. Hold compression for, I think it's, is it 9 to 12 seconds? Or 8 to 12. And then circle my way out, getting a little bit lighter. That circular friction that we talked about earlier. And make my way out. Okay, so after the 3 bands, like the pizza.
The iron and effleurage, palm of hand, side and glute.
So I can stack my hands. Okay. And I think that's it. Return.
2-hand effleurage.
So again, I am returning, keeping my hand on her, no pressure, coming all the way back down. I'm going to do 2-hand effleurage 3 times.
3 times.
Watching my body mechanics. And then on the last time, I'm going to lighten my pressure and do my nerve stroke. That is essentially the routine. So now, just like we did with the back routine, redrape the client, and we're going to do some effleurage. And when we do this, again, we're staying away from the popliteal fossa, the back of the knee, but you can do a little bit on both areas. And we're keeping our pressure light. So most people can take a little more pressure in their back. On their legs, they're sometimes a little bit more sensitive, and we want to be mindful of that.
Calves especially.
What's that?
Calves especially.
Yeah, calves especially. So no matter what your stroke is, I would go a little bit lighter than I did on the back, typically. And again, if you're checking in with them on pressure, that's a good way to judge where you're at. Okay. So that is the leg routine. I'm going to show you the other leg without talking. Again, this normally should be only about 6 minutes per leg in the grand scheme of the entire body routine. When I'm done with this leg, though, I am going to show you two of the stretches that I mentioned that we are going to go ahead and practice today to incorporate. All right. Thank you. Notice where I'm stopping. Pressure okay, Savannah?
Yes, ma'am.
That's our routine. Two things I want to say real quick. When we are working up here in the hamstring area, we are actually bringing our strokes up to right where the fold of the leg and the glute meet. So that is actually called the gluteal fold. We are bringing our stroke all the way up there. So you will learn what the ischial tuberosity is. That is actually the attachment for the hamstring muscles. It is what they sometimes call the sits bone, and you can feel it on yourself. It's kind of just a bony protuberance that when you sit, that's the most prominent thing that we sometimes feel. That's the point that you're working up to for the hamstring. So don't stop shy, work up to the hamstrings, or work up to that hamstring attachment. Any questions before we move on and look at the stretches? Okay. All right, so for the stretches, we're going to do two different stretches. One is actually for the anterior side of the body. It's for the quad muscles. And then the second one is for those hip flexors, which are located also on the anterior side of the body, and that's typically your psoas group. So for this, we're going to drape a little bit different. We're going to do a little bit deeper drape. So same thing, I'm going to expose the lower part of the leg, kind of making sure this is secure here. But I want to take the corner of my sheet, or somewhere thereabouts. And I'm actually going to, sometimes they help you, like this, but you may need to lift. And I'm going to pull that up here. So that edge is up here now. And that way, that is really secure. It almost acts like a diaper around the leg. So the first stretch, I am simply bringing her knee up. You can place your hand. You always want to keep your other hand on the body somewhere, so you can either have it on the side. I like to put it kind of right up here in the upper glute area or the small of her back. And I am just going to bring her knee, or bring her ankle towards the glute, bending the knee. And I am going to go very, very slow until I start to feel a little resistance. And I may check in with my client and say, is that okay? Are you feeling a stretch? Those are just different words that you can use.
My quads are pretty stretchy, so.
I was going to say, this is incredible.
You can keep going.
Okay, so let's keep going a little bit. You can also ask them to tell you, tell me when to stop. When you really feel a stretch. My goodness.
Yeah, usually we have to lift the knee off the table to get a stretch on my quads.
Okay. So you get the idea. We typically are going to hold that for, I think it says on your sheets, you're going to not hold it very long, but that's what you're going to do while the client is in this position, while the client is prone. Okay, so then we're going to do the hip flexor stretch. And the same thing, we're going to bring the knee, or bend the knee 90 degrees, bring the ankle up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of grab here just above her ankle so I can get my hand underneath her knee. And then I'm going to let that usually rest right on my shoulder. My hand goes up here. And what I'm doing is I'm stabilizing her hips and her low back so that she doesn't automatically try to contort or help me. We are stabilizing the body so that she feels an isolated stretch in her hip flexors. I'm not going to be able to lift you as far. This table's too high for me. But I am then lifting straight up on her knee, straight up, and stabilizing this. And then gently come back down. Lower their leg real slow and gently too. Don't just slam it down. And those are the two stretches that we're going to try today. We will be walking around helping you with this. If your client verbally tells you that they're a little uncomfortable or that's too much, or please be mindful. Be mindful of when you start to feel a little resistance, that's usually when they're getting close to their threshold. So Any questions at all? So what we're going to do is we're going to practice the leg routine, both legs, and then we are going to incorporate the stretching, but I want you to drape, do your tapotement, then go back, re-drape, and try your stretches. Because you're not always going to do these stretches on everybody, we want to make sure that we are very proficient, though, in our leg